Okay.
No.
It sounds like we're live in Cvent though, so probably should go ahead and kick it off. Did you have opening remarks you all need to make?
I just wanted to say that I believe we're ready to go live. Thank you everyone for joining. This is exciting for UC Tech 23. Woo, the best one. And we have Meredith Ehrenberg. Meredith, you want to introduce yourself and the subject?
Hi there. I'm Meredith Ehrenberg. I'm an information architect at the University of California in Irvine. My work involves organizing, categorizing, labeling information, as well as creating user interfaces that are easy and intuitive to navigate. I provide support and problem resolution to campus users of UCI's Cascade Content Management System, and I'm the business service owner for our campus portal. A core focus for me, and really my passion, is ensuring our projects and websites are accessible to all. I am the former co-chair and now an active member of UCI's IT accessibility work group and a champion for both accessibility and wellness among my peers. The topic today is going to be our Accessibilities badging program. And you'll get familiar with the name and why we named it this very shortly. It is a project of the IT accessibility work group at UC Irvine. We do have some contributors from outside of UCI, and we'll get to that as well. So, all right. And now I can't move the slides. There we go. All right, so I also wanted to introduce two of my colleagues who were not able to co-present with me today. We're also presenting this same session at the AHEAD conference in Portland, and they are traveling today. So Sompan Eno from UCI's Disability Services Center and Fanny Sai from the Division of Teaching Excellence and Innovation have been my partners on this project. And of course, their contributions are equal to or more, but I was the only one available to present today. So I want to give them full credit. For today's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about the accessibility landscape at Irvine. Some of your campuses may be structured differently, and it might help to put this in context. I'm going to talk about the badging program itself, the goals, the history, the timeline. Give you a quick demo of the Canvas course that hosts the badging program, and then talk to you a little bit about the metrics and some of our lessons learned. So to start with, the accessibility landscape at UCI is a very, very distributed model. We have 5 main offices that play a part in it, although of course by policy and reality, it is everyone's responsibility on campus to ensure accessibility, both physical and digital. But these 5 offices are Disability Services Center, our Office of Inclusive Excellence, our Office of Equal Opportunity and Diversity, our Division of Teaching Excellence and Innovation, and the IT Accessibility Work Group that was formerly primarily sponsored through our Office of Information Technology. So we'll talk a little bit about each. The Disability Services Center is designed to promote a culture of inclusion and equal opportunity for students with disabilities. They advocate for student needs. They provide accommodation to registered students, and they advance disability and accessibility awareness throughout campus. The Office of Inclusive Excellence ensures that everyone, regardless of function, contributes to a thriving and healthy campus environment. They foster opportunities for everyone to maximize their potential at UCI, and they promote health and welfare of campus, alumni, and visitors. The Office of Equal Opportunity and Diversity explains and clarifies federal and state laws, regulations, and university policies and procedures. They respond to and work to resolve complaints. They offer a variety of training programs and workshops, and they are responsible today for the overall digital accessibility on campus. We have a relatively new, I think he's been on campus for 2 years now, maybe 3, a relatively new ADA coordinator. And this is his reporting structure, is the Office of Equal Opportunity and Diversity, and he is responsible for both physical and digital accessibility. So the Division of Teaching Excellence and Innovation delivers accessibility-focused workshops for instructors. They provide instructors with accessible teaching resources. They offer a teaching accessibly course, and they produce DEI course syllabus templates and an inclusive course design program that has an emphasis on accessibility. I was one of the co-inventors of that inclusive course design program, and we presented a full week on accessibility. And then last but not least, the IT Accessibility Work Group, which promotes digital accessibility awareness and empathy. We monitor and guide campus IT accessibility processes. We consult on technology procurement. So we essentially review VPATs and work through the procurement process alongside the requesting department and our procurement team. We select and manage accessibility vendors. Site Improve is a UC system-wide contract for scanning and testing of our websites, but any other local accessibility vendors, captioning vendors, et cetera, the IT Accessibility Work Group selects those. We foster an inclusive community with initiatives such as the Pledge, and I will show you that later. And we also provide education and outreach. And I wanted to share that the IT Accessibility Work Group currently has 33 members. They are a cross-section of department and school staff and faculty. We are all volunteers. Only the ADA coordinator has accessibility as their full-time job description. Everybody else on the team has accessibility potentially written into one of the bullets of their job description, but it is certainly by no means our full job. And we are also unfunded. So these are sort of important to give you the lay of the land, so to speak. All right. So our problem statement is then, with this distributed model, how do we engage and train more staff and faculty on what accessibility means and how to make your materials accessible? We have a system-wide directive and indeed a desire to promote accessibility on campus, but really no ability to mandate that. So how do we encourage and bring folks along and engage them? And the answer we discovered this about the same time was when I was on a really serious health journey. And I was doing two things. One was I had joined Weight Watchers and was appreciating their points system and the gamification of proper nutrition. And I had recently also started doing some virtual 5Ks. And the reward for getting that medal in the mail for participating in my virtual 5K was, something that drove me to do more of them. So we thought, could we introduce gamification to this accessibility environment as a way to get folks more involved? So gamification makes learning more fun and interactive. It gives learners the opportunity to see real-world applications. It provides instant feedback and reinforcement. It improves knowledge absorption and retention. And it sparks friendly competition. So we're not quite there yet, but with over 200 learners currently enrolled in the program, we will soon be able to start pulling metrics along the lines of how many people who have a level 1 badge are from which schools or which departments or which teams, and maybe we can create a little bit of healthy competition. Our goals and objectives with the project were twofold. One, to build awareness about two things: disability from a diversity and inclusiveness perspective, and accessibility, like tactically making the campus a better place for everyone. And then secondly, to reward and recognize those who are already actively working to improve accessibility on campus and who have already taken the initiative to educate themselves and to start encouraging their peers. So the program requirements, as I mentioned, the ITAW is an unfunded work group at UCI. So our program that we designed had to be free or ultra low budget. For those of you who have accessibility roles on your respective campuses, you may remember the days when Tom Andriola was the system-wide accessibility champion. And he's since moved to UCI, and I report directly to him. So I could probably finagle a couple dollars out of his budget, but it certainly wasn't going to be, anything with high dollar figures attached. And we knew from the start that we wanted to offer multiple layers or tiers to reward additional engagement and to step participants through phases. So the learning phase, and then the doing phase, and then the teaching and evangelizing phase. And we'll talk more about those. And then it had to be appropriate for our hybrid work environment. Most staff at UCI are still remote in some capacity. Faculty, of course, are much more engaged on campus. Students have fully returned. Staff to a far lesser degree. There are very few staff members that are on campus 5 days a week. And the Division of Teaching Excellence and Innovation that I mentioned is one of the exceptions there. So because they provide faculty support and student support, they are on campus 5 days a week, as is the Disability Services Center. But the program that we wanted folks to be able to participate in had to be able to be done from anywhere. In other words, it couldn't be an on-campus scavenger hunt of go to this building and write down this thing, or go test out, a stair evacuation chair in XYZ building. So our program, again, this is the IT accessibility work group. So it's all to do with digital accessibility and not the physical built environment. So our program theme, and this is the brainchild of my partner from the Disability Services Center, Sampon. UCI is literally built around a central park. For those of you who have not been to Irvine to see it, we have these amazing, beautiful trees where our campus is built in a circle, and the buildings, radiate around we call it Ring Road. So we wanted to play on the idea of accessibility as a central tenet of our campus values, just like our central park. And then if you look at the roots of the tree in this photo, this is one of our beloved multi-century trees on our campus. And you can see that the roots are creating a strong foundation from which we can build. And that was another layer that we wanted to bring into the theming of this. So our learning phases are growing from a sprout to a sapling and into an accessibility tree. So at the sprout level, you're just starting out, you're just starting to learn some basic concepts. It's designed for complete beginners, folks who have only heard the word accessibility from somebody like me who's shoving it down their throats. Yes, I work on the communications team in the Office of Data and Information Technology. And last week, I was counseling my colleagues about the need to camel case your hashtags in a social media post. So, many people's first introduction to accessibility is hearing it from somebody like me, trying to describe to them how folks with disabilities interact with digital properties. And so we wanted folks to be able to meet them where they're at. And it's entirely possible that they have no idea what we're talking about. So let's teach them the basic concepts and get them started on this path. At the sapling level, we ask them to start applying these concepts. Okay, so we've talked to you at the sprout level about the need for color contrast. So color contrast is describing a foreground color and background color. And for example, if you put white text on a yellow background, that's going to be very hard for many people to read. It's insufficient color contrast, right? If you change that white text to black text on a yellow background, that's going to be much easier for people to read. So we learned about that color contrast in the Zott sprout level. And in the sapling level, we're going to start playing with putting values into a color contrast checker and seeing which ones are accessible and which ones are not, given the size of the font, because color contrast also depends greatly on the size of the font. You know, you can put that white text on a yellow background if your type is the size of a building and you're putting a banner on the side of a convention center. If your, 10-point type on a little slide, that's certainly not going to be visible to most. So the sapling level, we start doing things like playing with the color contrast checkers and sampling colors to see what works and what doesn't work. And we learn the specifics of doing the thing, right? How do we do a thing? We learned that we need to know it in the Zott sprout level, but in the anteater sapling level, now how do I actually do that? And then at the accessibility level, we're asking you to demonstrate mastery of those concepts. So now this is adding a layer of complexity and asking you to make some judgment calls. I think many people on this call have probably heard of an accessibility rule called alt text, where every image you include in an email, in a Word document, on a website, in these slides, all of these images need to have text description so that if the image can't be displayed, somebody can still understand what should be there. And that's good, by the way, not just for accessibility, but in general in usability. For example, people who have images turned off in their emails, that's an Outlook setting. You can change it so you don't receive emails in your Outlook. And many people do that for ease of reading and or for a security setting. So adding alt text is easier. It enables people, instead of just seeing the little red X that there should be an image here, now they see the text of what the image would be if I were looking at it, right? So universal design like that. And then how you write alt text is a little bit subjective, right? An image of a plane, for example, could be appropriately alt texted with Boeing 747 releases 200 new planes. It could be blue and white plane sits on tarmac grounded during thunderstorm. It could be Air Force One. All of these could be appropriate depending on the context of where that image is placed, right? So the accessibility level is asking learners to be able to make those fine distinctions and to demonstrate really a full mastery of the concept. And then within that level, we also ask people to become an evangelist. Now that you know how to do this, please spread the word, share with your colleagues, help us create more accessibilities, right? Drop some acorns behind you, folks. All right, so the development of the program. We started by brainstorming appropriate activities. Then we went about vetting some third-party links and resources. With just the three of us working on this project, we knew from the start we were not going to be able to create enough activities for this to be a choose your own adventure kind of choose 10 of the 15 that are available. And we wanted to offer folks the fun of being able to do that, right? Being able to select what felt appropriate to their role or what felt fun for them to learn, or what was something that, you know, somebody in their personal life had asked them to do better or something. So we knew from the beginning we were going to end up in using and leveraging some third-party links and resources, and I'll show you some of those when we get to the demo. Then we layered in some instructional design, and this is where Fanny from the Division of Teaching Excellence and Innovation became the absolute critical member of the team, is laying this all out in a format that made it make sense and that was available to everyone on campus regardless of their role. And then we layered in, now that we have instructional design, now we layered in some graphic design. And there were rounds of approval from strategic communications. And we went back and forth on that a bit. That's one of the things that we'll get to on our lessons learned slide. We did some beta testing with our ITAW committee members and some Disability Services Center staff. So folks we know who are, going to be gentle on the feedback. And then we created a continuous improvement loop. So there's built-in feedback options for learners right inside the Canvas course. And then we publicize our group email widely so people can let us know if something feels amiss with the program, either the curriculum or the mechanics of the program, like, hey, there's a broken link here, or I took this activity and it didn't make sense to me. So we offer built-in feedback options for people to let us know those things so we can continue to improve. And a little bit about the history. So in August of 2021, the project team was formed. And in October of 22, keep in mind this was during COVID, so we were all working from home on our day jobs and trying to get this project launched on the side, right? So it took us a full year to get the Zotsprout level launched. And then in October, we issued our first 2 badges the day after we launched. So some immediate acceptance from some folks, some really quick uptake. By 2 days later, we had 127 learners enrolled. So there's definitely an appetite for a program like this on campus. We're talking now to some folks in OIT who have some other communities of practice that they're trying to build. One around data-driven student success, for example. And they're looking at this model and saying, okay, with that kind of uptake that quickly, we can see that folks are engaging in this kind of learning path. It might be appropriate for my group too, So by no means is this meant to be strictly accessibility. It just happened to work for our accessibility team. And then just this April, we were able to soft launch the sapling level. We expect to have that fully launched and live later this month. All right. So let's get to the Canvas course demo. I'm going to do a new share and show you the actual Canvas course. So you'll see that this pink outline is indicating that this is a student view inside of Canvas, right? So that you don't see all my little admin notes. This is what a student sees when they first enroll in the class, and you can self-enroll in this class. It does not require one of the 3 of us to give you any kind of link or permissions. Anybody with a UCI Net ID can access the course. We'll get to it in a minute, how our sister campuses can share this information. But again, you'll see that the 3 layers, the Zotsprout, Anteater Sapling, and Accessibility are top-level links, a little bit about how the program works. You can only go through the levels sequentially. You must complete the Sprout level before you can do the Sapling level and before you can become the Sapling before an Accessibility. And then complete 10 activities within each level. You can do all 14 if you are an overachiever, but you only have to do 10 in order to get the badge. And you do have to get 100% on the 10 that you do. So, the rules of the road are explained here on this homepage. And then folks can get started. And to get started, they go to the Zotsprout page, and the Zotsprout talks about being a newcomer to accessibility. Here's what we expect you to learn. Here's the instructions. We have 14 available activities. Select the triangle for each one to open the activity. And then at any time, you can get an at-a-glance view by clicking on grades. So let's go into the accessibility pledge. This was another subcommittee of the ITAW built this pledge. And if I click into the activity, it will tell me. All right, by signing this pledge, you're taking a stand against ableism and helping to promote a more inclusive culture for people with disabilities. Print it out, pass it on, promote it on social media. Together, we can make UCI more inclusive. And what you will do is, I'm doing that for the sake of this call, but normally it would open in the same window for accessibility. So our pledge here, we have 483 folks who have taken the pledge. I pledge to acknowledge the existence of ableism, recognize society's unconscious bias against people with disabilities, educate myself on how to combat stereotypes, prejudices, and harmful practices, hold space for people with disabilities to share their lived experiences and amplify their voices, and foster respect for the rights and dignity of people with disabilities. So very simple. And you can add your name to the list. You'll be required to log in and add your name. And then you come back to your accessibility pledge page, start the assessment. And all you're asked to do here is tell us what day you took the pledge. Have you taken the accessibility pledge? And add a screenshot. And then when you hit submit, it sends the three of us, the badge team members, a note that says you have to come grade this. And we'll go in, verify on the pledge page that they did it and give them their full credit. So going back to the, multiple, there we go. All right. So you can see there are 14 activities folks can do. They need to complete 10 of them. Some of them, importantly, I wanted to point out, do not require our intervention. So some of them are, you'll read or watch a training module, and then you'll take a quick quiz. So there'll be a 5-question multiple choice quiz. And assuming you get all five quiz questions correct, you automatically get your score of 100. So we tried to balance it with the principles here with, quick multiple choice or true false questions in a quiz format. So people, A, could get immediate feedback without having to wait for us to grade, and also B, so we could cut down on the administrative burden since there's just 3 of us. We wanted to make sure we weren't, setting ourselves up for a load of work here. So there's an even balance of how many are auto quizzes and how many require our intervention in the ZOT Sprout level. And then once you complete your 10 questions, you mark it as done, you say next, and that sends us an email that says, hey, go in, make sure this person has their 100 points and send them their badge. We are using the program Badger, B-A-D-G-R with no E, to issue the actual badges that were designed by our graphic design team and approved by our strategic communications. So these have been uploaded into Badger, and we go in and manually say that a person has completed a level and send them their badge, and Badger does that, pops their badge over to them so they can start using it in their email signatures or print it out and hang it in their cubicle or, do whatever with it. So the anteater sapling level unlocks once you've received your badge from the ZOT Sprout level. So completion prerequisites, you have to have completed your Sprout level and claim your ZOT Sprout badge. And then like now it's not going to let me, apologies folks, but just like the accessibility, the Sprouts page, it's going to have a page with 14 activities. And of those 14 activities, you can select 10. We are hoping once we get accessibility's level completely built out to come back and add more activities to these Eventually, they might grow to be 20 activities, of which you still will only have to pick 10. But there just would be a larger variety of paths you could take. So that's essentially how these will work. Accordions of, a quick overview of what's available within the level. So you can kind of, just from the headlines without having to expand anything, you can kind of get a feel for what might interest you. And then, the short description here, and then you'll click through and find how to actually complete that. So, all right, so that is the Canvas demo, and we can talk more about it if there are questions towards the end. Just have a couple more slides to get through, and then we can have plenty of time for Q&A. So, all right, so some statistics. As of June 30th, we had 247 learners enrolled. 29 people have completed the Zot Sprout level. We have 2 folks who have completed the sapling level, and 81 people have completed at least one activity. So 247 people were so enamored with our original launch email that they said, "Ooh, yeah, that's something I should probably be doing. Let me go get started." And then for whatever reason got distracted and haven't come back to it, right? So that's something else we'll talk about, is a communications campaign. All right, so lessons learned. You will 100% need an instructional designer on your team. They are the learning experts. They are the folks who know how people learn. They know what motivates people, and they will be able to help build the course in whatever learning platform is available to you to deliver it. A larger project team can move items faster and disseminate admin work more evenly. So if at all possible, I highly suggest you recruit more than 3 people. We're making do, but it's, as you've seen on the timeline, it's taking longer than anyone would like. And each phase is, coming out slower than we'd like. Outward communication is key. And this is one of the areas of weakness for our team, is that we probably should have built in from the beginning a reminder cadence, so that those 81 people would get in there and actually keep completing activities and working towards a badge. There's probably some folks who, in their enthusiasm to check out what it was, clicked through and enrolled in the course, self-enrolled in the course, and then realized, okay, that's not something that I feel is relevant to my role. It is, but there are a lot of folks on campus who don't think it is, or folks who just realized, hey, I don't have the time to do that right this minute, or planned to come back to it, and then it just slipped. We're all human. We all have competing priorities. We understand. But a communication plan with built-in reminder cadence would have been helpful. We could have automated some of that. And then start with clear learning objectives. Build tasks and assignments that drive towards those learning objectives. As we were filtering some of the third-party links, like the color contrast tool that I mentioned, we link to WebAIM's color contrast tool. There is no reason on earth to reinvent that wheel. They have a great color contrast checker with a really good color picker that talks about the different font sizes that correspond to the WCAG guidelines and what is and isn't accessible. We're not reinventing that wheel. They do it well. So if you can create your own learning objectives, then as you go out and explore the third-party content that you want to put into your course, it's much easier to vet it against an existing set of learning objectives you want to achieve. And that's my last bullet, is you don't have to make or own all of the content. For any incentive program, there will always be somebody who's already done this. Google exists for a reason, folks. And I would highly encourage you to leverage what is already out there. Yes, you will end up at some point down the road with some broken links, and you will consistently have to monitor your learning platform to make sure you're staying on top of those things. But it is much easier to do that than to try and recreate the body of content entirely on your own. So, all right. So that was enough of me talking at you. I'd like to leave the last 10 minutes for you guys to ask me some questions, and maybe we can talk through some ideas for how our different campuses or different organizations within our campuses can collaborate to do a similar program. So let me stop sharing for a minute, or I guess I can just leave this slide up.
Meredith, thank you. Yeah, we are just at that time where we want to turn this over to some questions. There are a couple things in the Q&A section. And before I forget, though, I also want to remind all of the attendees of this that there is a survey also in this event that you can click on afterwards. And the feedback is tremendously helpful. So remember to do that. Meredith, I'm going to read you the first one I see here. Are the Canvas pages of the ZOTs publicly available?
Okay. They are, no, they are not publicly available. Only folks with a UCI Net ID can enroll in and access the Canvas course. That does not mean that if you are from a sister campus, we cannot work together. So I have been told that first off, I can give anyone a demo at any time in depth. If any of you want to reach out to me, let me go ahead and put here the email address to use that will go to all three of us as collaborators. And we are happy to do an in-depth screen share session with anyone. We have been told that we have the capability to export courses from Canvas. I know we have done this from our dev environment to our production environment, exported the class, and then imported it in our production environment. So I'm sure that the same can be done exporting our class and importing it into any of your campuses that use Canvas. I have also been told by a couple of people on the system-wide accessibility committee that Blackboard and Moodle will accept an import of a Canvas course as well. So even if you do not use Canvas as your campus learning LMS, learning management system, we should be able to give you guys the bones of what we have. And I mean, you may have to go in there and edit things and tweak things, but it certainly wouldn't be creating it from scratch. So that is a collaboration that we are very much open to. While we're talking about collaboration, actually, you know what? Let me take the other Q&A questions, and then I'll come back to other ways we might collaborate.
All right. The next one's a little bit multi-part. The teaching and evangelizing is so important, especially considering the funding situation. Are there any funding opportunities on the horizon that you're looking at? And what would you do differently or in addition to what you've already done if you had some funding?
Ooh. So one of the things we talked about on our dream list, if we had all the funding in the world, we wanted to send folks a packet of seeds when they enrolled, and then send them a sapling. I literally found a source for saplings that were, kill me now, it's Etsy, and they're wedding favors, and they're small little like fir branches in a little pot they come in a test tube looking thing. And we really wanted to give those out to people as they advance. And then we thought about planting an actual tree in the park with some sort of plaque on it for the folks who reach the accessibility level. As a curiosity thing too, like people would stumble across this tree and be like, what even are these plaques? Like, how do I get my name on a tree? So, and it can't be one of our historic trees because there's no way we would be allowed to, put plaques in any of our, but maybe we could come up with a tree sculpture that, is metal instead of actual tree, something like that. And each leaf is somebody who has completed an accessibility tree. So those are the kinds of things we would do with funding. We would also look to, potentially hire students to create and manage activities, to do some of the grading for us. As we get into the sapling level, there's much more grading involved in completing the activities. I can't think of a single activity in the sapling level that is a 5-question quiz that grades itself. So our administrative labor gets harder as each level goes along too, because we're asking people to prove mastery, and that's going to require some finesse. So.
Oh, thank you. Here's another one. I'm going to jump around a little bit. Do you need any approvals from higher level units and offices in order to go live?
We did not. That's the beauty and the bane of the ITAW and our sort of limited advisement is, because we're this cross-section work group. I will tell you that I ran it past Tom, just because I report to him and because he's so involved in accessibility and passionate about it. And he kind of gave it a nod. I'm sure that the ADA coordinator ran it past his VC as well. But nobody was in it to prevent us from doing this. We did not go seeking approval for it.
That's awesome. And I can't remember. I think I may have heard the answer to this. Is the program available only to faculty?
No, it's faculty and staff. It could be a student as well. There is nothing that prevents a student from enrolling in the badging program. We are not actively marketing it to students just because our admin team can't handle the burden of grading those assignments while we are trying to build the tree level, right? So we're intentionally sort of gatekeeping the announcements of the levels that are available, but the intent is not to keep anybody from taking it.
Okay. Similarly, did you launch the first level campus-wide, or was it scoped?
We launched the first level with a QA team first of friendlies from the ITAW and from the Disability Services Center, and then went broad. We sent we call them ZOT mails. They're campus-wide emails, broadcast emails. We sent a ZOT mail to all staff and faculty at the campus, and I think at the health center. I think the hospital staff got the email as well.
All right, I was just typing that response, and let's see. Is there a time frame within which the program should be completed, or is it
No.
self-paced?
It's self-paced. They can take their time. Yeah, we understand that some people will get in there and do all 10 and want their badge right now. They're super motivated. And other people are going to get in there and do 2 and then come back a month from now and do another one. And then, yeah, it's completely self-paced. Again, this is not an activity we can mandate. We're just trying to encourage.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important. That's the end of the questions. Oh, I have one more. Can you estimate approximately how many hours your team has put into this?
Couple hundred.
Couple hundred, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, between the 3 of us, for a while we had a cadence where we were meeting every other week. Then as we neared the launch of the first phase, we were meeting every week. And then once that first phase was live, I think we started meeting monthly while we were developing phase 2. And we each kind of had our own bucket that we were sort of working offline, and then we'd come back together for feedback from the team. So those 1-hour meetings times 3 people, 3 man hours or person hours, times weekly meetings during those build sessions. Yeah, there's a couple hundred hours invested, but it could be spread out, as I said, amongst a much larger team, or even amongst student workers. I would absolutely encourage folks to get their student staff involved.
All right. I think we're at time now.
Perfect.
Meredith, thanks so much for joining UC Tech and helping us, right? And the content's fantastic. Again, let me remind everyone to check out the survey. Feedback is a gift. I encourage everyone to give that gift. And
thank you all. And please reach out if we can collaborate in any way. If you have activities you want to add to level 3, or if you would like to get a copy of our level 1 and 2, please let me know. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Okay.